All right, Shalom, giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah, Bahashem Rachak, with us, double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, wherever you may be, Shalom, Yeshua, Shalom. All right, we're going to jump back into the book of Exodus, and before we get over there, I want to read something here. There's a lot more here, but I just want to read this portion here, where it says, the ancient Egyptians believed in many different gods and goddesses. Each one had their own role to play in maintaining peace and harmony across the land. Find out about their special powers and duties. Some gods took part in creation and others brought a flood every year, which was important for growing crops. Some offered protection while others took care of people after they died. There were local gods who represented towns and minor gods who represented plants or animals. A few gods were very dangerous. The ancient Egyptians believed that it was important to recognize and worship these gods and goddesses so that life would continue smoothly. All right, and now down here it says browse the list of 35 ancient Egyptian gods and goddesses, but there's a lot more than that. All right, than these, and we're not going to go down there to these. There's a whole list down there, but we're not going to go into those. I just want to read that portion here for a reason, because when you're dealing with these Egyptians, you have to understand, from their standpoint, what it is that they believed in, okay, versus what we Israelites worship, which is one power, the true power, the living power, all right, the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, all right, and how that, that would clash with them, as the Lord moves along to do these plagues, all right, upon this earth, or not upon the earth, but upon these Egyptians, all right. So let me flip back over here. All right, before we get over there to Exodus, I want to read something real quick. So it says, take ye, this is Deuteronomy 4:15, take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves, for ye saw no manner of similitude on the day that Yahweh spake unto you in Horeb out of the midst of the fire, lest ye corrupt yourselves and make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flieth in the air, the likeness of anything that creepeth on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth. And lest thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the host of heaven, shouldest be driven to worship them and serve them, which Yahweh thy power had divided unto all nations under the whole heaven. All right, so all these different things you see these heathens indulge in. They worship this, they worship that, they worship stars, they worship moon, they worship plants, animals, and things of that nature. These are their gods, and so on and so forth, and they have multiple gods, right? But you have the one true living power, all right? It says, which Yahweh thy power had divided unto all nations under the whole heaven. But Yahweh have taken you and brought you forth out of the iron furnace, even out of Egypt, to be unto him a people of inheritance, as ye are this day. All right, get one more. Psalms chapter 96, verse 5, it says, for all the gods of the nations, gods with a little g, what are idols, but Yahweh made the heavens. And let's get the word idols. I guess we can get that. All y'all of naught, good for nothing, worthless, all right? And there's many scriptures dealing with idols, all right? But that's what they are, what these individuals worship. And as we're talking about in specific, these Egyptians, man, these gods that they worship, they're just made up gods. And the Lord has allowed all the nations to worship their own little, false gods and idols. But you, all right, you worship the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, you Israelites, that is, okay? And there's going to come a time, all right, when Yahweh Shah returns, where all these false gods and idols are going to be done away with. And the only one to be feared is going to be Yahweh, all right? But it says of not, good for nothing, worthless, of physicians, a shepherd. We don't need that one in divination. But it says of false gods, all right? And not pretty much the same thing as meaning nothing, all right? Worthless, of false gods, all right? And that is what these heathens worship, okay? So let's jump over here. All right, so Exodus chapter 7, verse 1. Where it says, I will stretch out my hand, the subtitle there, subheading. It says, and Yahweh said unto Moses, see, I have made thee a god unto Pharaoh, and Aaron thy brother shall be thy prophet. Okay, and it says, I made thee a god unto Pharaoh. All right, Alahayim, okay, is the word there. Rulers, judges, divine ones, right? Angels, gods, godlike ones, all right? Here, works or special possessions of the Most High power, all right? So a ruler, a judge, okay, over Pharaoh, all right? By way of going back to what he told Moses to do, the mission he gave him, and told him what to do and what to say. All right. And so he was able to work miracles, which didn't stop in Egypt because they went on after Egypt. All right. And did more things. So verse 2 says, Thou shalt speak all that I command thee, and Aaron thy brother shall speak unto Pharaoh, that he send the children of Israel out of this land. Right, the children of Israel out of this land. He's not dealing with all the heathens, man. Right, from way here in the Old Testament all the way to the New Testament, and the Apocrypha in between. He's always talking about dealing with the Israelites directly and never the heathens. It says, and I will harden Pharaoh's heart and multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. What is he talking about? The plagues that he will bring upon the Egyptians, man, which we're about to, start to go into. All right, the word there's mawapath, wonder, sign, miracle, portent. All right, wonder. You see, there it is right there. Wonder as a special display of the Most High's power, all right, which is he's going to work through Moses, and I guess you can say Aaron too, because Aaron played a part, right? Moses and Aaron, but mainly Moses, all right? So we can also get signs. That word there's signs, all right? Here it is, miracle proof, all right? Miraculous sign, okay? So you get the point there. And then let's get what it says for harden. He says he's going to harden Pharaoh's heart. The word there's kwasha, all right? To be hard, be severe, be fierce, be harsh, yeah. And what happened? Every time, the Lord, oh, wow. I just looked up this license plate. This is 1444 from right to left. 144. There's another four, so there's 444. Mercy and 144. Man, you can't make that up. Call along your line. How much more shot? Yeah, it says what was I saying? Man, yeah. So they would go to Pharaoh with the plea that or you know, with the words of the Lord, let my people go that they may serve me. All right, in the wilderness. And Pharaoh was like, yo, you know what? Okay, you can go. All right. But then, what really before then he would, say, no, you can't go. The Lord will bring a plague, all right, through Moses, Aaron, or whatever. All right. And then Pharaoh will say, you can go. But then he'll ask for the plague to be removed, and then he'll harden his heart. He'll change his mind. He'll renege on giving us our freedom. All right. And every single time he will get more hard, more severe, more fierce, more harsh. All right. And think to keep us and pretty much continue to mock the Lord. All right. What does the scripture say? God is not mocked. I almost want to say that's in Galatians 6. Is that Galatians 6 and 7? And I'm sure. Let me check it just because I said it. Yep. The Wadi House on Shah. Galatians 6 and 7. Be not deceived. The Most High is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. And that's pretty much what happened to Pharaoh, man. All right, that mouth got him into a lot of trouble with the Lord. All right, and it ultimately ended up with what? The killing of the firstborn, Egypt and all these other, well, actually, that was more to the final one. But those things, the plagues before that led up to that. All right, and eventually, he still hardened his heart in anger, and the Lord destroyed him. All right, in Exodus 14. All right, so let's see what else is here. To be hard, be difficult, be severe, be ill-treated, hard-pressed, make difficulty, make burdensome. Actually, we don't need that one. uh I was thinking about on our behalf, because we're talking about Pharaoh here. But yeah, make stiff, make stubborn. There you go. That's straightforward. Stubborn. We all understand stubborn, right? That's what he was doing, man. All right, to show stubbornness. All right, every time this would happen, he would get more and more stubborn. All right, excuse me, and he would continue to mock the Lord. So it says, and I will harden Pharaoh's heart and multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. But Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, that I may lay my hand upon Egypt and bring forth mine armies. Meaning, basically, Pharaoh's not going to pay you no mind, right? He's going to change his mind, right? He didn't say it straight out, but that's basically, the Lord already knew, because the Lord planned this out anyways, all right? So it says, and my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt by great judgments, right? It says, I will bring forth mine armies and my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt by great judgments. And we can go into armies real quick, because it's just talking about, what I'm just dealing specifically with the men, right? But we know what obviously wasn't just men that came out of Egypt. But anyways, says, and the Egyptians, verse 5 says, and the Egyptians shall know that I am Yahweh when I stretch forth mine hand upon Egypt and bring out the children of Israel from among them. All right, and there's a scripture, I believe we're going to end up reading over it, where he says that a dog shall not a dog move wag his tail, or something like that. I forget. But anyways, he's speaking about the Egyptians and so on and so forth. And another thing, it goes to show you a separation, you so-called Negroes. You're not Africans, man. You're not Egyptians or whatever. Okay, these are not your people. All right. It says, and the Egyptians shall know that I am Yahweh because you have a lot that want to deal with Kemetic and Egyptology and things of that nature. All right, and they're going off. It says, when I stretch forth my hand upon Egypt and bring out the children of Israel from among them. All right, and so I'm curious what it means. Like when he says, stretch forth my hand. I mean, we understand what it means, but what comes out from that? Because we know it's going into those not the curses. Well, you can call them curses, but really it's plagues though, because not really curses, right? Those plagues, all right. Basically, he's talking about how he's going to jack up the Egyptians, man, as I deliver you. So verse 6 says, and Moses and Aaron did as Yahweh commanded them, so did they. And Moses was 80 years old, which is 80, all right, because a score is 20, so 4 scores will be 80, all right. And Aaron 3 years old, so Aaron was 83. It goes to show you back then, all right, just how much more healthier, all right, everybody in the earth was, all right, because we could talk specifically about the Israelites, but all the earth, because everything's jacked up now. Everybody, how much more healthier the people were back then, because you have to understand it, 80, 83, and however much time, from this point forward, they left out of Egypt, they walked many places, walked around in the wilderness, so on and so forth, and they were able to make that journey. Imagine somebody 85, 90 years old, 93 years old, traveling, those journeys that we travel, all right, in the wilderness. They wouldn't make it, all right? It'd be a day or two before that person would have passed out and, died of heat stroke or thirst or starvation or something, all right? Because the world is so jacked up now and our bodies are so jacked up now. But back then, there was more strength in the individual's bones, all right, in their life force. So it says, and Moses was 80 years old and Aaron 83 years old when they spake unto Pharaoh. All right. It says, and Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying unto Aaron, I'm sorry, Moses and Aaron. Let me read again. And Yahweh spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, when Pharaoh shall speak unto you, saying, shew a miracle for you, then thou shalt say unto Aaron, take thy rod and cast it before Pharaoh, and it shall become a serpent. That goes back to Exodus 4, which is why it's written right here. All right. And Moses answered and said, but behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice, for they will say, Yahweh hath not appeared unto thee. And Yahweh said unto him, what is that in thine hand? And he said, a rod. And he said, cast it on the ground. And he cast it on the ground. And it became a serpent, and Moses fled from before it. And Yahweh said unto Moses, put forth thine hand and take it by the tail. And he put forth his hand and caught it, and it became a rod in his hand, that they may believe that Yahweh, power of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, hath appeared unto thee. All right. And eventually, I believe it's that same chapter where he told him that, hey, Aaron is on his way to you now. Go out and meet him. All right. And vice versa. Aaron was pretty much prompted to go to where Moses was. All right. So they could meet up for this purpose. All right. Because he made, as he said, you're going to be like God. All right. Basically, you're going to play my place. All right. In a sense, because, I was supposed to be, you know, just me and you were supposed to be the mouthpiece to do everything. But he cried for help. All right. And so he said, all right, Aaron can help you out. So Aaron will be the mouthpiece and you'll be like God, unto Pharaoh. Right. So it says, when Pharaoh shall speak unto you, saying, show a miracle for you. All right. Then you shall say unto Aaron, take that rod and cast it before Pharaoh, and it shall become a serpent. And that word miracle, going right back up to what we read before. Mawapath. All right. Wonder as a special display of God's power. All right. So it says, and Moses and Aaron went in unto Pharaoh, and they did so as Yahweh had commanded. And Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh and before his servants, and it became a serpent. All right, so they did this thing in the sight of Pharaoh. Obviously, there was others watching because the pharaoh, or it didn't even have to be pharaoh, any kind of king or whatever. They're not just going to be sitting around by themselves. They're going to have guards. They're going to have, a council. They have certain people that are probably accompanying them at all times, or at least near, messengers and things of that nature. So there was probably a small, a particular group that was around pharaoh to actually see this happen as well. So it says, then pharaoh also called the wise men and the sorcerers. All right, now the magicians of Egypt, they also did in like manner with their enchantments. All right, with their enchantments, you gotta get the word enchantments right. Where there's lahat, there's a lahat, flame of an angelic sword. Interesting. All right, because it doesn't say much more there. So there's not much from there. But here it says from the idea, it says magic as covert. Okay, flaming enchantment. All right, because if you get magicians and sorcerers, all right, the word is haratam, 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 I believe. Says diviner, magician, astrologer. All right, and this is where Esau gets these things from. All that astrology and soothsaying and numerology and stuff like that. All right, they get a lot of that from ancient Egypt. All right, because those Egyptians love their magic. All right. So it says, we actually wouldn't need that second one. Well, I mean, it says engraver writer only in derivative sense of one possessed of occult knowledge. We don't need that one, but it fits though. But yeah, in straightforward diviner, magician, astrologer. See what this word says here. I just want to need that. And then if you get the word sorceress, kashap is the word there. To practice what? Witchcraft or sorcery. That's basically what all magic is. All right, use witchcraft, sorcerer, sorceress. All right. And these were their wise men of Egypt. This is what they did. All right. Hakam. Wise men, skillful, intended work. The shrewd, crafty, cunning, wily, subtle, prudent, wise, ethically, and religiously. I don't think we really get more out of this. Yep. See. So going back to their witchcraft and stuff like that, the magic, which the Egyptians were big on, and you see Esau, he deals with that. All right. He goes into those things. So it says, for they cast down every man his rod, and they became serpents. But Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods, and he hardened Pharaoh's heart, that he hearkened not unto them, as Yahweh had said. And you have to understand, this probably took, this was probably a decent showing here, all right, where you had Aaron throw the rod down, became a serpent, and it doesn't say how many actual, just like the churches do with the the three wise men, right? It says gold, frankincense, and myrrh, and they just put a number on the wise men. We don't know how many wise men it was. We just know the gifts that were given, three different types of gifts. We don't know how much was given of each gift, so we don't know how many men have to carry those gifts. So it's the same here. We don't actually know how many men um uh uh, replicated Aaron throwing the serpent down. But we do know, all right, however many men, two, three, doesn't matter, all right, that this was time consuming because everybody did the same thing. And then, you have to think is one by one. Okay, if you've never seen a snake eat, what happens is they'll double joint their jaw, all right, especially if the prey is super huge, they'll double joint their jaw. And then it actually takes a good bit of time for them to swallow that prey down. Like, say, if a rabbit or something, all right, it takes time for them to swallow that rabbit down. So you have to think about, even if it was two or just three, all right, it's going to take time to swallow that one serpent down, and then swallow the next serpent down, and then get serpent number three down. All right. So this was probably a short showing. Okay. It wasn't just, it happens just, quick. It probably took time for it to happen. All right. And being realistic about it. All right. So they were probably watching. They probably had a little, snake fight or whatever. And, Aaron's serpent rod won. Okay. And swallowed up the other serpents. And what happened? It says, and he hardened Pharaoh's heart, that he hearkened not unto them, as Yahweh had said. All right. So even though his magic men, replicated, the rod serpent or serpent rod, or just serpents, however you want to call it, right? Theirs got swallowed up, and then what happened? It probably pissed him off, and he got angry. Then it says what? It hardened his heart, right? So here's where things start to actually, amp up, all right, start to, heat up a little bit, all right. because you see the subheading here says water is turned to blood, right? So Exodus 7 and 14, it says, and Yahweh said unto Moses, Pharaoh's heart is hardened. He refused to let the people go. And the Lord told Moses that he was going to do that anyways. All right. So these things are playing out. It says, get thee unto Pharaoh in the morning. Lo, he goeth out unto the water, and thou shalt stand by the river's brink against he come. And the rod which was turned to a serpent shalt thou take in thine hand. So he's basically saying, all right, so Pharaoh's going to be here in the morning next to the water, all right, which let me see here, because there's a lot of things we can pull if we like pull up probably the AMP. It'll say like the now and stuff like that. Um, yeah, see all this that we just read. See, go into all of that. All right. Make Pharaoh's heart hard and multiply my signs and my wonders and miracles in the land of Egypt. But Pharaoh will not listen to you, and I shall lay my hand on Egypt and bring out my host like a defensive army, tribe by tribe. You see, and that's why we left out. It says we left out harnessed. All right. Later on in the books. Says, my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt by great acts of judgment. You see, the plagues. There you go. All right. The Egyptians shall know that I am Yahweh when I stretch out my hand on Egypt and bring out the children of Israel from among them. And Moses and Aaron did so, just as Yahweh commanded them, so they did. Now Moses was 80 years old and Aaron 83 years old when they spoke to Pharaoh. Now Yahweh said to Moses and Aaron, when Pharaoh says to you, work a miracle to prove your authority, then you say to Aaron, take your staff and throw it down before Pharaoh so that it may become a serpent. So Moses and Aaron came to Pharaoh and did just as Yahweh had commanded. Aaron threw down his staff before Pharaoh and his servants, and it became a serpent. Then Pharaoh called for the wise men, skilled in magic and omens, you see, and the sorcerers, skilled in witchcraft. All right. So he gathered different groups, but what they were doing were pretty much still similar. It says, and they also, these magicians, the soothsayer priest of Egypt, did the same with their secret arts, right? Their what? Their witchcraft, their magic, their sorcery, their secret arts and enchantments. All right. So they worked their magic to replicate the serpent. For every man threw down his staff and they turned into serpents, but Aaron's staff swallowed up their staffs. Yet Pharaoh's heart was hardened and he would not listen to them, just as Yahweh had said. And it goes on to where we are now. It says, then Yahweh said to Moses, Pharaoh's heart is hard. He refuses to let the people go. Go to Pharaoh in the morning as he is going out to the water and wait for him on the bank of the Nile. You see? And that was the water, all right? The Nile River. Because, you have to understand it was the major river flowing through Egypt, all right? From Upper Egypt to Lower Egypt. It says, go to Pharaoh in the morning as he is going out to the water and wait for him on the bank of the Nile. And you shall take in your hand the staff that was turned into a serpent. You shall say to him, Yahweh, the power of the Hebrews, has sent me to you, saying, let my people go so that they may serve me in the wilderness. All right. And this is something you're going to hear over and over and over, because that was the main message. Let my people go. All right. So it says, but behold, you have not listened until now. So that's what he's going to say to Pharaoh. All right. That the Lord said, let my people go that they may serve me, but you still haven't listened. All right. So verse 17, it says, thus said Yahweh, by this you shall know and recognize and acknowledge that I am Yahweh. Look, it says, look, with the staff in my hand, I will strike the water in the Nile, and it shall be turned to blood. The fish in the Nile will die, and the Nile will become foul, and the Egyptians will not be able to drink the water of the Nile. Then Yahweh said to Moses, then Yahweh said to Moses, say to Aaron, take your staff and stretch out your hand over the waters of Egypt, over their rivers, over the streams, over their pools, and over all the reservoirs of water, so that they may become blood, and there shall be blood throughout all the land of Egypt in containers, both of wood and stone. Yeah, because you may have had water stored away that you drew up from the Nile, maybe to wash something, maybe some clothes, or maybe you bathe it in, or whatever you might use it for, hand washing, face wash, whatever they needed water for on the side in their pots, their wooden vessels and their stone vessels. Even when they open those, it's going to be blood. All right, starting from the Nile River. And this is important because what now you see is the display of the Lord's power on a higher level start to come into play here. And that's why we read what we read in the opening there, what the Egyptians had their own little false gods and idols to serve. All right. So this is a very important what the Lord is doing here. It's not just him, just regularly bringing some plagues. All right. These plagues that he was bringing were directly associated to false gods and idols that the Egyptians worship. And this Hapi was the Nile god. Right. So it says Hapi was the god of the annual flooding of the Nile. All right. Going to, all those things, dealing with, and here's the map right there, with how the Nile River flowed through. Okay. Um, and, the Nile River really made Egypt a very fertile land. All right. That Nile River alone. Okay. Now, not as pleasant of a land as our land, but that Nile River made Egypt a very great area to live in amongst, which were a lot of those settlements would be, in places, next to the Nile River, right? Because of that, it says in ancient, you need that water, right? You need, those floods sometimes, right, for crops and irrigation and things of that nature, okay? Because every place on this planet, or in the ancient times, they had their, irrigation periods, all right? They had their crop periods, and I believe the Egyptians had like three uh, quarters of their particular year. The planting season, the harvest season, and there was another season I can't remember. But for the Egyptians, they were in particular three. All right, and all had to do with irrigation and crops and things of that nature. They're planting, and because of the area. All right, but anyways, back on point. So Happy was supposed to be the Nile god. All right, so it says in ancient Egyptian religion, it says the flood deposited rich silt or fertile soil on the river's banks, allowing the Egyptians to grow crops. Okay, I guess I should just read this. But yeah, I mean, because I looked into it anyway, so there we go. It says Hapi was greatly celebrated among the Egyptians. Some of the titles of Hapi were Lord of the Fish and Birds of the Marshes and Lord of the River bringing vegetation. Hapi is typically depicted as an androgynous figure, which basically is saying that it has male and female characteristics, which is why you see, we'll read this real quick. It says, with a prominent belly and large drooping breast, wearing a loincloth and a ceremonial false beard depicting the hieroglyphs as an intersex person, all right? So as you can see there, you see it has, there's the fake beard there. It has the breast there, and then it has a belly as if it was pregnant. But clearly it's a man, but it has also female features. And that's what they're talking about going into androgynous, all right? And then you see this duality thing right here going on because this was supposed to be, um right here, we can read it right here. Hapi shown as an iconographic pair of genii, symbolically tying together Upper and Lower Egypt. All right, yeah. I was looking for a particular word, but yeah, pretty much the joining together of the Lower Egypt and Upper Egypt together. All right, that was a particular word I was looking for there. And you looked at that word genii, and that takes you all the way back to Roman. All right, we know these Romans were Edomites, and these Edomites took a lot from the Egyptians. Their ways, all right? Because you have to remember, Egypt was taken over by an Edomite, all right? Now these are the actual Egyptians, but I was just mentioning that, so, you know, here's that flooding of the Nile. Occasionally was said to be the arrival of Happy. Since this flooding provided fertile soil in an area that was otherwise desert, Happy symbolized fertility. He had large female breasts because he was said to bring a rich and nourishing harvest. All right. Due to his fertile nature, he was sometimes considered the father of the gods and was considered to be a caring father who helped to maintain the balance of the cosmos, the world or universe regarded as an orderly, harmonious system. So this is what the Egyptians believed in, all right? And many different gods, man. Okay. There he is again. Although a male and wearing the false beard, Happy was pictured with pendulous breast and a large stomach as representations of the fertility of the Nile. He was usually given blue or green skin representing water. Other attributes varied depending upon the region of Egypt. All right, which now I'm not saying that this comes from that, but when you think about the Greek god, I believe it's in the Greek is Poseidon, and I believe in Roman it's Neptune. All right, but he's supposed to be what, the god of the sea, right? Similar. All right, not saying this is where it comes from, but very similar, right? Um, Yeah, it says other attributes vary depending upon the region of Egypt in which the depictions exist. In Lower Egypt, he was adorned with papyrus plants and attended by frogs present in the region and symbols of it, whereas in Upper Egypt, it was the lotus and crocodiles, which were more present in the Nile. You can see a lot of those crocodiles on a lot of the wall reliefs too, all right, dealing with that, because they dealt with animals too, all right, plants, animals, all these things. They had gods for everything, right? It says, thus, these were the symbols of the region and those associated with Hapi there. Hapi often was pictured carrying offerings of food and or pouring water from an amphora, but also very rarely was depicted as a hippopotamus. You see, that's that funny thing. You see it, you see it. If you look at those, ancient what they call them. Is it not hieroglyphs? I don't think it's called hieroglyphs. We just call it wall reliefs, all right? But you can see those different things on the wall, and you can see that little crocodile-looking animal. I believe it's green, and it's got these Egyptian garments on and whatnot. So it says during the 19th dynasty, Hapi is often depicted as a pair of figures, each tying together the long stem of two plants representing Upper and Lower Egypt, symbolically binding the two halves of the country around a hieroglyph meaning union. This symbolic representation was often carved at the base of seated statues of the pharaoh. Right. So yeah, so you understand that the Lord wasn't just randomly doing random plagues, right, to jack them up. All right, He was doing what He was doing for a reason and directly attacking their gods, because Pharaoh probably thinking himself to be a god, and that the gods that they served are directly communing with him, and so on and so forth. And so who is this Yahweh you mentioned? Who is he? I don't know him. Why should I let his people go and all this, that, and the third thing? All right. So the Lord had this, very strategically planned, man. All right, about hardening Pharaoh's heart, about the message he told Moses and Aaron to go to him with, and how the plagues, directly attach or attack um, what they believe in, which are their gods. And this is the first one up, up for grabs, all right? Hapi, the now God, all right? So you see what the Lord is doing here. So going back to Exodus chapter 7, says, Then Yahweh said to Moses, say to Aaron, take your staff and stretch out your hand over the waters of Egypt, over the rivers, over the streams, over the pools, and over all the reservoirs of water, so that they may become blood, and there shall be blood throughout all the land of Egypt in containers, both of wood and of stone. I'm pretty sure he didn't walk through every area. He probably stretched his hand over the Nile, and then everything, follows suit after that. So, because why would Pharaoh allow this man just to walk everywhere? And he turned the water to blood everywhere. So he would just allow him to walk all through Egypt, just turn everything to blood everywhere. No, this happened once. I'm pretty sure it was probably over the Nile River or wherever they were right now, which was at the bank of the Nile. So it happened over the Nile River, and then everything else follows suit, in the houses and everywhere else. So it says, so Moses and Aaron did as Yahweh commanded. Aaron lifted up the staff and struck the waters in the Nile. You see, in the sight of Pharaoh and in the sight of his servants, and all the water that was in the Nile was turned into blood. And that was the first place it happened. All right, turned into blood. Now I believe I forgot where it was. It happened somewhere east where there was some waters that turned red and looked like blood. It wasn't actual blood, but it turned red. Okay, so in the scriptures say, I believe it's in Ezra, right? The Lord shall smite Egypt with plagues as before. Now we know that spiritual Sodom and Egypt is America, but who's the Pharaoh of America, ultimately stems back to the banking families, and the banking families pretty much have rulership over all the earth. As I said that yesterday, the Israelites are scattered in all the earth in captivity. All right, so the Lord is not just going to smite America with plagues; He's going to smite the earth with plagues, and those things have happened. Different types of plagues, similar to what happened in Egypt, have happened in this earth in these latter days here. So we know we're in the end, man. But let's keep going. Verse 21 says, "The fish in the Nile died, and the river became foul smelling, and the Egyptians could not drink its water, and there was blood throughout all the land of Egypt." Yeah, because fish, they need water, all right? Blood is thick, or maybe not so thick, but dead blood anyways, where coagulates, all right? It really gets thick, all right? But just blood in general, all right? Fish are aquatic beings, all right? They don't, I guess you can call it breathe. For them, water is breathing, because for us, air is breathing. You put a fish in the land, he's gonna drown, all right? Because he doesn't breathe air, he breathes water. So a fish out of the water drowns, all right? In a sense, when you think about it from a fish point of view. But we who breathe air, if we put into water, we drown, all right, by way of water. So fish, and blood is no different from the same. You can choke on your own blood, and so it's no different from fish. Fish don't breathe blood; they breathe in and out the waters. So if all the waters are turned into blood, naturally the fish are going to die. So you're going to look at the rivers and see a bunch of fish that's floating up to the top, Some probably sinking down to the bottom, and then others might flop on the banks and stuff like that and whatever. So it says the fish in the Nile died, and the river became foul smelling. And man, fish alone stink. So you talking about dead fish? That's even worse. And the Egyptians could not drink its water, and there was blood throughout all the land of Egypt. But the magicians of Egypt, man, I didn't think we were going to hit the bottom of the chapter so quick. But the magicians of Egypt did the same by their secret arts and enchantments. So Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he did not listen to Moses and Aaron, just as Yahweh had said. You see? So this is going to be a constant thing over and over and over as the Lord continues to bring these plagues to smite Egypt. It says, then Pharaoh turned and went into his house, and he did not take even this divine sign to heart. All right, so all the Egyptians dug near the river for water to drink because they could not drink the water of the Nile. So they started digging around, right? So we can't pull it directly out the Nile. Let's start digging to the side and off over here. Let's dig a ditch here. Let's try to dig down and find some fresh water. But they couldn't find any. Everything was blood all around. It says, so 7 days passed after the Lord had struck the Nile. So this wasn't a one single event and then the next day another event. No, this was a whole entire week of blood everywhere for water, fish dead everywhere in this bloody water. All right. And them probably for a whole week, digging up holes probably all around Egypt trying to find fresh water and finding nothing but blood. Okay. And this was the first, strike, on the Egyptians by way of a plague. And it also, that Nile River, they had a god that they worshipped. Okay, so they were probably looking, like, man, what, like, this is strange here. Of course, Pharaoh hardened his heart, but the Egyptians had to look like, what's going on here? All right, what's up with this God that we worship? All right, why did he not stop this or whatever? They probably look very strange. They were probably worried. Okay, but Pharaoh, as the Lord said, he would harden his heart, and so that's why he kept on doing what he was doing. All right, but it gets better as we keep going. But that's the end of chapter 7. Shorter than I thought it was going to be. I didn't think we were going to hit the bottom so quick, but that was pretty much it to that chapter there. So, Lord, will you edify to next time? Yahshua, I'm going to say shalom.